Have you ever walked into a Danish supermarket and felt your wallet shrink just by looking at the price tags? Denmark consistently ranks as one of the most expensive countries in Europe for food, but why? Is it just high taxes, or is there something deeper happening behind the shelves? In this video, we'll uncover why groceries in Denmark can cost 40 to 50% more than in neighboring countries, why a simple loaf of bread or carton of milk might feel like a luxury, and how these high prices connect to wages, welfare, and even climate policies. And stick around, because later, we'll break down how you can actually save money shopping here, despite the high costs. Sustainability and green energy. Viking heritage. Welfare system. New Nordic food. Welcome to Denmark Explained, your front row seat to the hidden gems, quirky traditions, and powerful stories that make Danish culture truly unforgettable. Let's start with one of the biggest reasons food is so expensive in Denmark: the combination of high taxes and high wages. Together, they shape almost everything you see in the supermarket. First, the tax system. Every time you pick up a carton of milk or a loaf of bread, you're not just paying for the product itself, you're also paying a 25% value-added tax. That's one of the highest food taxes in Europe. In many countries, basic groceries are taxed lightly, sometimes at 0%, because governments want to make essentials more affordable. But here, food is treated the same way as electronics or furniture. That alone drives up prices at the checkout. Now, here's something interesting. Despite this high tax, people generally accept it. Why? Because the money collected helps fund services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. In other words, the extra kroner on your grocery bill is indirectly paying for benefits you'll use elsewhere. We'll come back to that later, because it's an important trade-off. The second factor is wages. Denmark doesn't have a legal minimum wage, but strong unions negotiate salaries through national agreements. That means even the person stacking shelves in a supermarket earns a wage that's significantly higher than in most neighboring countries. On average, retail workers here make about 20 to 23 euros per hour. Compare that to Germany, where the figure is closer to 12 to 15 euros. Those higher wages are a win for workers, but they also add to the price you pay at the register. And wages don't stop at the supermarket. They affect the entire food supply chain. Farmers, truck drivers, warehouse staff, all of them earn higher pay compared to much of Europe. When you add up each stage, the final cost of food is naturally higher. Here's a small but important detail. Labor costs in Danish grocery retail make up about 25 to 30% of operating expenses. In many other countries, it's closer to 15 to 18%. That gap matters. It means more of your money is going directly into salaries. So when you combine a 25% tax, high wages across the board, and a strong welfare system, it creates a unique situation. Shoppers pay some of the highest grocery prices in Europe, but those prices are tied to broader social benefits. But hold that thought, because in the next part, we'll look at what this actually means for your weekly shopping cart. How much does it cost to live here, and what does your monthly grocery bill really look like? The numbers may surprise you. I hinted earlier about what your weekly shopping cart really looks like. Now let's unwrap that. So what does all of this actually mean when you go shopping? Let's break down the numbers and see how much people really spend on food. If you're a single person living in Denmark, you can expect to pay somewhere between 355 and 400 euros per month just on groceries. That's roughly 1,500 to 2,000 kroner. For a family of 4, the bill climbs much higher, often between 675 and 950 euros every month. And remember, these figures are for groceries only. Eating out is a completely different story, and we'll get to that later. Let's look at a typical basket of everyday items. A liter of milk costs about 1.90 euros, a dozen eggs around 5 euros, and a kilo of chicken fillets about 10 to 11 euros. A standard loaf of bread falls between 2 and nearly 4 euros, and a kilo of cheese is often 13 euros or more. Even something as simple as apples can set you back 2.70 euros per kilo. Now compare that to what you might pay just across the border in Germany or Sweden, and the difference is striking, about 40 to 50% cheaper in many cases. Go further south into Eastern Europe, and the gap widens to over 60%. That means a grocery cart that costs 50 euros elsewhere can easily cost 80 or more here. Here's something worth noticing. Food isn't the only expense, but it's one of the most visible. You see it every week, every time you shop. And it's not just the big ticket items, little things like bread, fruit, or eggs add up quickly. That's why so many newcomers feel the price shock when they first move here. But let's pause for a moment. Would you rather pay less for groceries but face higher costs in healthcare, childcare, or education, or pay more at the supermarket while those other services remain free or heavily subsidized? It's a trade-off that shapes everyday life here. Another detail: eating out at even a casual restaurant will easily cost 16 to 20 euros per person, while cooking at home usually comes down to about 7 to 9 euros per meal. That's why locals often eat at home during the week and save dining out for special occasions. So yes, food feels expensive, but when you put the bigger picture together, you can see how prices connect to the entire system. And in just a moment, we'll explore why these prices aren't just a temporary spike. They're tied to deeper forces like global supply chains, energy costs, and even climate policies. Now, here's the question you need to think about. Would you rather pay more for the assurance of high-quality welfare services, like healthcare, education, or shop cheaper but with fewer social safety nets? Option A: embrace higher costs for stronger social support. Option B: take the risk for lower prices but fewer benefits. Weigh in the comments below with your pick. Planning a trip to Denmark? Or maybe you're moving there soon? Don't just Google your way through it. Let DenmarkExplained.com be your shortcut to a smoother, smarter, and way more fun experience. At DenmarkExplained.com/products, you'll find itineraries, ready-made plans that turn confusion into unforgettable days. eBooks, packed with local insights, cultural tips, and everyday know-how. No boring history lessons, just stuff that actually helps. Expat guides, moving to Denmark? Get the info you wish someone told you before you landed. Everything's digital, everything's simple, and everything's designed to make Denmark feel less confusing and way more cozy. So skip the stress and get the guides that explain Denmark clearly, cleverly, and in plain English. Check it out now at DenmarkExplained.com/products. Your trip, our tips. Let's make it amazing. If you're enjoying this deep dive and finding these insights helpful, hit like, subscribe, and share. Then drop your choice, A or B, in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. You've seen the what and how much. Now let's explore why else prices remain so high, even after inflation slows. So far, we've looked at taxes and wages. But there's another reason why food prices are so high here: global shocks and new policies that shape how food is produced and sold. Think back to the years after 2022. Energy prices skyrocketed, supply chains broke down, and inflation swept across Europe. In Denmark, food costs rose more than 22% compared to before the crisis. And here's the key point: unlike in some countries, those prices haven't dropped back down. They've stabilized, but at a much higher level. Take a closer look at everyday items. Sugar, butter, chocolate, and even orange juice. Some of these products have gone up by 30 to 50% in just a few years. That's not a small bump, that's a whole new price reality. And it's one that most experts say will stay with us for the long term. Why is this happening? Part of it comes from global forces. Energy is a huge cost in farming and transport, so when fuel prices surge, the cost of every product on the shelf rises too. Add to that the uncertainty created by global conflicts, shipping disruptions, and climate impacts, and you can see why food has become a lot more expensive everywhere. But then there are local forces unique to this system. Farmers, truck drivers, and warehouse workers earn higher wages than in most of Europe, which means the entire food chain, from field to fork, costs more to operate. And because about 2/3 of food is imported, any shock in global markets is felt immediately at home. There's also something new reshaping prices: environmental regulation. The largest dairy cooperative in the region recently reported a drop in milk output across its farms, simply because climate rules are creating uncertainty. Farmers are holding back on investment, and when supply shrinks, prices rise. And looking forward, the government is planning the world's first direct tax on farm emissions. By 2030, livestock producers will pay around 300 kroner per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. That's a huge step for the climate, but it will also push production costs up even further. Many farmers are already delaying expansion, waiting to see how these rules develop. So when you add it all together, global energy shocks, high labor costs, import dependence, and new climate rules, you get a food system where prices are unlikely to fall. They may even climb higher as sustainability goals kick in. But here's the twist. While shoppers feel the pinch, these same policies are also laying the groundwork for a greener, more sustainable food future. And that balance between cost and sustainability is what we'll explore next. So we've mapped taxes, welfare, inflation, and environmental policies. Now let's close with how you, the shopper, can navigate this, and what Denmark's aiming for moving forward. As we've seen, food prices in Denmark are shaped by taxes, wages, global shocks, and environmental policies. But what about the future? What can shoppers expect in the next few years? The answer is both exciting and challenging. Experts predict that food prices will remain higher than in many neighboring countries, but there are also opportunities for smarter shopping and sustainable choices. For example, households are already shifting toward more plant-based products and locally sourced foods. This trend is not just about health, it's about adapting to a system where imported items may get even more expensive. Consider the rise of organic and sustainable products. Denmark has one of the largest organic market shares in the world, with around 13% of total food sales being organic. This shows that even at higher costs, consumers are willing to pay more for quality, environmental impact, and transparency. And here's a detail worth noting. Younger generations are leading this shift, often choosing products with clear sustainability labels even if they cost slightly more. Now, let's talk about the upcoming farm carbon dioxide tax, scheduled for the near future. This policy aims to reduce emissions, but it will also increase the cost of certain products like meat and dairy by an estimated 5 to 10%. Shoppers may start noticing subtle price changes at the checkout, but this is part of a larger plan to balance food production with environmental responsibility. And later in the video, we'll discuss ways consumers can navigate these changes without hurting their budgets. Another factor influencing the future is the growing demand for plant-based alternatives. The market for these products is expected to grow by 20% annually. That's a significant shift, and it means supermarkets will likely offer more options for those looking to eat healthier or reduce their carbon footprint. This trend also helps diversify the market and may introduce competitive pricing in certain categories. On the household level, food spending in Denmark remains around 11 to 12% of disposable income, higher than many neighboring countries. But by choosing seasonal, local, and sustainable options, families can make smarter decisions and even save money. Programs to reduce food waste, which have already cut household waste by over 25% in the past decade, also contribute to cost savings while supporting sustainability goals. Finally, it's important to remember that higher prices are not just a burden, they are part of a system designed for a greener, fairer, and more resilient food future. Consumers are already participating in this transformation, shaping the market with their choices and helping the country achieve ambitious environmental targets. The takeaway? While prices may stay high, understanding the reasons behind them and making informed choices can turn a challenge into an opportunity for better food, better habits, and a more sustainable lifestyle. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Click on the playlist to your right for more.